about the KPMG report about funding of the Federal Court, the Family Court and the Federal Circuit Court. The report hasn't yet been made public.
No.
Have any of the report's findings been implemented in the 2014 budget or in other policy measures?
No.
Okay, when will the report be publicly available?
Well, I haven't decided yet whether it will be released. The response to it is something to which I'm giving consideration, but it certainly wouldn't be released before the response, if it's to be released at all. I'm not saying it won't be, but that's a decision that hasn't yet been made.
What would be a rationale for keeping the report from the public?
It's not a question of keeping a report from the public. I mean, this is a, and I don't want to set any false hairs running here either, Senator. I'm not saying it won't be released. I'm merely saying that no such decision has yet been made.
I just seem to remember having sat through estimate sessions in the past when you've been asking questions on this side of the bench and asking about the release of reports into courts and so on. So you would understand the arguments that...
No, I understand the arguments
interest.
perfectly, and I understand the arguments perfectly. I'm just telling you no such decision has yet been made.
Yes. Can I ask about the review of the National Partnership Agreement on Legal Assistance Services, which is complete? And again, I'll ask, when will the review report be publicly available?
Well, when it's, if it's to be released, obviously that isn't going to be before it's finished. Now, where we are with that, perhaps the officers might be able, the officials might be able to help you more than I can.
I had understood it was complete, so maybe my information is not accurate.
Well, it's well advanced, but I'm not sure that the document I have is its ultimate iteration, is it, Mr. Manning?
No, since the last estimates, there was the draft report was distributed amongst states and territories and others who have consulted in relation to it, and the consultant is currently finalising it. And as Jenny said, I think it is close to finalisation. So.
Okay, and again, is there a commitment to releasing that review report publicly, Minister?
Well, at this stage, no. I mean, I haven't even read the report because, as Mr. Manning says, it hasn't been finalised.
Yeah.
So you can hardly expect me to make a decision whether or not it's appropriate to be released when I haven't yet read it.
No, I suppose you could make a decision on principle that it's the kind of report that would be publicly
released.
released.
Well, in principle, I'm in favour of releasing these things, and so I start from the presumption that they should be released unless there's a reason not to do so, but I obviously can't arrive at a conclusion following that process of reasoning until I know what's in it.
All right. Thank you. Can I turn now to the National Human Rights Action Plan, please? So this was developed following substantial consultation at the community, state and territory level, and
Is it the same thing?
I'll wait till the appropriate officers attend.
Well, I think it'd be good to have one, but I think that would be part of...
So, this is my understanding that it was developed following substantial consultation with community, state and territories, in the community and state and territories, and it features a range of initiatives that are designed to ensure that Australia continues to meet its international human rights obligations. Does the action plan, and this is probably a question for the Minister, does the action plan continue to form part of the current government's policy?
Well, Senator, we're having a look at the whole human rights area, and as you know, one of my main priorities in this portfolio when the government was elected was to revive the human rights debate, and I think we've done that. The appointment of Mr. Wilson to the vacant position of Human Rights Commissioner with a particular focus on freedoms, which, as I've said in previous estimates, I think had been rather neglected by the Commission, has led to a very lively debate about human rights with a slightly different focus than had been the case hitherto. The debate about Section 18C, which we had earlier this afternoon yet again, is a debate about human rights. It's a debate about where the right not to be vilified ends and the right not to be politically censored ends. So I think there has been a lot of debate about human rights in Australia in the last 8 months, and it's been a richer debate than the rather grey politically correct debate we've had in years gone by. So I make that point to emphasise that getting human rights onto the agenda is about a lot more than just having an action plan. It's actually about what you do to elevate human rights in the public consciousness. In fact, I was having a conversation with the Human Rights Commissioner only the other day, and he said to me, well, you know, we've never had so much discussion in mainstream politics about what liberalism means in my lifetime than we've had in the last few months. So that demonstrates the human rights debate is really alive and well at the moment in a way that it hasn't been before.
I hesitate to interrupt you, but I know I only have a few minutes
left. No, sorry, I didn't mean to go on, but I like to rhapsodise about this.
I can see that. And so with respect, I will sometimes bring you back to the point.
Of course, you're very polite.
So I'm actually interested in the status of the action plan. All that, notwithstanding what you've already said about the debate that's going on, very vociferous debate at the moment. So will it continue to form part of the current government's policy?
Well, the document in the form we inherited from the previous government may not necessarily, but can I add another element to this, please? That is, and I've discussed this with Professor Triggs, and you may wish to ask her about this tomorrow, in fact. The government proposes to reform the Human Rights Commission, and that will require amendments to its act. Professor Triggs is very eager that that be done, and she has some views about ways in which the constitution of the Commission and the way in which it operates can be improved, and she and I have spoken about this a couple of times, including briefly this afternoon, in fact. So the point I'm trying to make to you is that I don't want to let the cart get before the horse here. In the second half of this year, we will be announcing significant reforms to the Human Rights Commission, and I think it's in the context of those reforms that we will be revisiting the human rights agenda.
All right, so would I be correct in having listened to what you said there, in thinking that the department probably isn't at the moment continuing to deliver initiatives under the plan?
Well, that's
or are there ongoing
initiatives
that are being delivered currently?
Stephen Bauhaus.
Oh, I thought I had till 20 past. It was 5. Yeah, that was 8 when I started.
Right.
I was working on.
Was it 8 o'clock?
By the time we got going, it was 5 past 8.
It was 8 o'clock, I'm sorry.
It was actually 8 past. So I would appreciate a few more minutes, if I can, just to finish these questions. Sorry, what was the answer there?
Stephen Bauhaus, Assistant Secretary, Human Rights Policy. As the Attorney-General has articulated, the new government has a new agenda for human rights, so we wouldn't be continuing with the action plan as formally set out by the previous government. The new government would make its own decisions about what it wishes to commit to in the lead up to the Universal Periodic Review in 2015.
Right, and I'm using the term initiatives contained in the plan, so they aren't continuing to be delivered. Are there ongoing initiatives that have a status that won't have any further work done on them at this point until that further planning is done?
Well, each initiative would be a question for the government to decide separately, but that framework of a national action plan was one of the previous governments, so it wouldn't continue. But as issues come up, the new government would consider them and make a decision on them as it sought fit.
Yeah, that's right, Senator. I mean, look, the new government has a much broader and richer human rights agenda than the old government. I think the official reflects that in his answer.
I need to ask this question. It's the last question, and that is: has there been any change in the funding allocated to the initiatives contained in the plan? Then,
well, the initiatives span across the whole of government, so from everything from multicultural affairs to immigration to other matters. So that would be a very difficult question for me to answer.
The initiatives administered by your department is my clarifying point there.
Senator Singh.